Viewers, let's also tell you that an eyewitness account has intensified scrutiny of the fatal ICE shooting in Minneapolis that killed 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good during a federal operation on January 7. A neighbor who witnessed the incident said ICE agents surrounded Good's car and opened fire as she attempted to move away, contradicting federal claims that the officer acted in self-defense. Federal officials, including the Department of Homeland Security and President Donald Trump, have defended the agent, describing the incident as justified and labeling the woman's actions as a threat. Local leaders and witnesses dispute that account, saying video evidence does not show officers being struck and raising concerns about delayed medical aid. Meanwhile, protests are taking place in the city of Minneapolis against the shooting. According to reports, law enforcement and the demonstrators have clashed a number of times. The shooting comes amid a record ICE-related deaths nationwide. In 2025, 32 people died in ICE custody, the highest annual toll in more than 2 decades. Advocacy groups say the vast majority of those deaths involved people of color, driven by medical neglect, prolonged detention, and increasingly aggressive enforcement tactics. While the Minneapolis case has drawn national attention, rights groups stress that similar deaths involving black and brown immigrants often go unnoticed, highlighting long-standing racial disparities in immigration enforcement. All right, I request now Andrew Latham to join me in this discussion here. Andrew, what we are seeing is I wouldn't even say unprecedented, because the ICE raids have drawn severe criticism in the past as well. But this is really the tip of the iceberg, where a demonstrator has been struck down and, killed. How do you think this is? How do you think it can? Trump will be able to strike a balance between, curbing the menace of illegal immigrants, while also assuring, free access for all who are legally there?
Well, it's not that tricky a balance to strike, actually, pardon me. If I'm an immigrant to this country, lawfully filled out the paperwork and that became an American citizen. This is not directed at people like me. It's directed at people who are here without papers, unlawfully. And it's part of Trump's grand strategy, as it were, in terms of domestic politics. He wants to close the border down by making this place really inhospitable to anybody who crosses the border unlawfully. And in that respect, he's done a good job, quote unquote. I'm not endorsing it. I'm simply saying that the number of cross-border unauthorized migrations is way, way down. But the cost is extraordinarily high in terms of civil rights, in terms of terrorizing. I'm in Minneapolis. Schools here are closed today because ICE has been raiding schools and taking children out of schools without their parents' knowledge. And so now the schools have closed down to prevent that. This is a very big deal where it touches down in the immigrant communities, but also in the broader community as well. This is really a live wire in terms of state politics right now, but in terms of domestic American politics, this is huge.
And what's going to be the next course of action now? Is there going to be any curb now on the powers that the ICE enjoys?
Well, one would hope. When I look at that video, I can see two stories, and it's very hazy. One is that this was just an out-of-control officer, and the other is that this officer feared for his life and acted on instinct in a split second. I'm not a judge, I'm not the jury, I really don't know exactly what happened, but it's up for debate. And having said that, though, it wouldn't have happened had ICE not been deployed in the way that it was, at the time that it was, in the place that it was. So perhaps dialing back on that, even if it's just to tamp down the political blowback, is something this administration might consider and might actually do.
All right, thanks very much, Andrew, for joining me in this discussion and taking part. And viewers, now moving ahead, let's also tell you that Jordan has just concluded A high-level summit with the European Union attended by His Majesty King Abdullah, European Council President Antonio Costa,